Why did the water feel calmer than the people watching her? The tank closed over her head and the world narrowed to pressure, darkness, and breath she wasn't allowed to take. Anna Sharma floated suspended, hands working the rope by touch alone. The knot was soaked, swollen, designed to punish hesitation. Her lungs burned, but not violently. The pain came in measured waves, familiar, controlled. Fear only existed if she allowed it to, and she didn't. Her fingers moved with patience that confused the instructors watching from above. No thrashing, no wasted motion, just deliberate decisions made in silence. She noted, almost clinically, how steady her heart felt, too steady for someone supposed to be drowning. When the knot gave way, she didn't rush. She finished the task first. Then she kicked upward, broke the surface, and inhaled without drama. No gasp, no triumph, just air. The nod from the instructor was brief, almost dismissive, but Anna felt it anyway. It was strange how the ocean respected competence more than people did. The mess hall that evening was louder than the tank had been. Metal trays, laughter, ego bouncing off concrete walls. Anna moved through it like a shadow, collected her food, and chose a seat against the wall, a habit born from long experience. Walls meant fewer surprises. That's when the temperature shifted. The Marines had arrived 3 days earlier, force recon, loud, confident, certain the room belonged to them. Their leader, Staff Sergeant Cole Cutter, sat at the center like gravity itself, his voice carried, on purpose. Anna didn't look up when the laughter changed tone. She focused on her plate, measured her breathing. "Lady Seal," someone said, not quite quietly enough. More laughter. "They really letting anyone in now," another voice added. Anna cut her chicken into even pieces, chewed slowly. She could feel eyes on her, waiting for a reaction. That was the game, always had been. Cutter finally spoke, his voice low, polished with contempt. "Standards are standards, but sometimes politics makes exceptions." The words landed exactly where he intended. Anna swallowed, set her fork down gently, silence stretched. She didn't rise to it, because she knew something they didn't. And she didn't need to tell them yet. What happens when mockery turns into a measurement? The shoot house smelled like oil and old dust. Anna stood at the head of her team, listening as Cutter dismissed her without ever using her name. Redundant, liability, unknown variable. She watched the commander hesitate. So she offered data. "Let them run it first," she said calmly. "Then us, same scenario, same metrics." Cutter smiled. He thought this was a gift. From the observation deck, Anna watched the Marines move fast and loud. Aggressive entries, shouted commands, raw confidence. They were impressive if speed was all that mattered. But speed wasn't everything. She saw the missed door, the sloppy muzzle sweep, the paper civilian that dropped because no one slowed down long enough to look. When the numbers came in, Cutter was already celebrating. Then her team entered. Quiet, fluid, no wasted movement. Anna felt something settle in her chest as they flowed through the building. This was what control looked like, not dominance, discipline. They were slower, everyone saw that. They were also flawless. 0 civilian hits. The silence afterward was heavier than applause. Cutter didn't look at her. Anna didn't look at him either. Because the real test was still coming. Why did the sky feel wrong before anyone admitted it? The boat rocked gently as they loaded gear, too gently. The air was thick, pressing down. Anna checked her watch. The barometer was falling. She said something. Cutter laughed. She said it again, quieter, firmer. The order came anyway. Out on the water, the storm didn't ask permission. Waves rose like walls. Wind tore sound away. The engine died. Panic spread fast, louder than training, louder than rank. Anna didn't shout. She moved. She read the waves, calculated angles, made decisions while others froze. When Cutter grabbed her arm, desperate to reclaim control, she met his eyes without anger. "Let go," she said, "or get out of the way." He didn't. So she solved the problem. The movement was clean, efficient. Over before anyone could process it, Cutter hit the deck. The satellite phone stayed aboard. And something else shifted. The Marines started looking at her. Not because she demanded it. Because survival doesn't care about ego. Who do men follow when rank collapses? Anna's voice carried without effort. Assignments were made. Orders followed. The sea anchor deployed just in time. The boat stabilized. Hours later, rescue came. Cutter sat restrained, silent, smaller somehow. Back on base, the debrief was clinical. Anna didn't embellish, didn't accuse, just facts. Others filled in the rest. Careers end quietly sometimes, with a pen, with a nod. No one applauded her. They didn't need to. What changes when respect replaces noise? The mess hall felt different now, quieter around her, not avoidance, recognition. Anna sat alone again, but this time it wasn't isolation. It was space. She cleaned her weapon, wrote her reports, watched the ocean settle back into calm, knowing better than to trust it. Master Chief Miller spoke softly beside her. "You saved them." Anna didn't answer right away. "Fear makes people do stupid things," she said finally. "Pride makes them do worse." The water glittered under the sun. She hadn't ended anyone's career out of spite. She had simply refused to let chaos win. And sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. Why did her calm seem to irritate them more than any argument ever could? Anna felt it the moment she stepped into the mess hall again, the way conversation bent around her presence without stopping entirely. That was new. Before, the silence had been sharp, performative. Now it was cautious, measuring. She moved with the same economy as always, tray balanced, eyes forward, choosing the corner table without hesitation. Habit wasn't fear. Habit was survival refined into instinct. She sat, unwrapped her utensils, ate. Across the room, Staff Sergeant Cutter was still holding court, but his voice had changed. Louder somehow. As if volume alone could rebuild what had cracked earlier that day in the shoot house. He laughed too hard. His men followed suit, not because the joke was good, but because momentum demanded it. Anna didn't look at them. She didn't need to. Inside her chest, something old stirred. Not anger, not pride. Anticipation sharpened by experience. She had seen this pattern before, men who felt challenged mistaking restraint for weakness, mistaking silence for permission. It always escalated. The only unknown was when. She took a sip of water and focused on the cold against her tongue, grounding herself. The instructors back in training had called it compartmentalization. Anna called it survival. A voice cut through the room, pitched to Carrie. "Hey, Lieutenant." She paused mid-bite, slowly set her fork down, looked up. Cutter stood now, tray abandoned, hands braced on the edge of his table. His smile was tight, public, performative, the kind meant for witnesses. "Didn't see you at the debrief celebration," he said. "Thought maybe you didn't like competition." A few Marines snorted. Someone else shifted uncomfortably. Anna met his gaze without flinching. "I don't compete," she said evenly. "I execute." The words landed harder than she'd intended. Not sharp, clean. Cutter's smile faltered for half a second before he masked it. "Must be nice," he said, shrugging, "having people clear the path for you." There it was. Anna felt the familiar tightening behind her ribs. Not fear, not doubt. The old question that never fully went away: do I prove myself again, or do I let this rot on its own? She stood, not abruptly, not defensively, just enough to meet him at eye level. "No one cleared anything for me," she said. "You saw the data." Cutter leaned in slightly, invading space, testing boundaries. Data can say a lot of things. And sometimes, Anna replied, it says exactly what happened. The room held its breath. Commander Davies' voice broke the moment from the doorway. Lieutenant Sharma, Staff Sergeant Cutter, you're both on maritime insertion tomorrow. Be ready at 400. That was all. No lecture, no warning. But Anna caught the look in Cutter's eyes as he turned away. The calculation, the resentment, the quiet promise that this wasn't finished. She sat back down slowly, appetite gone. Because she knew something else now. This wasn't about respect anymore. It was about control. Why did the ocean feel more honest than the chain of command? Anna barely slept, not from nerves, she trusted her preparation, but from the weight of unspoken possibilities. She lay on her bunk listening to the bass settle, the hum of generators, the distant slap of waves against concrete. Her mind ran forecasts the way others counted sheep. Weather patterns, human behavior, points of failure. At 3:30 she was already dressed, gear laid out with ritual precision. Each check was a reassurance, not a question. She trusted her hands. They had never betrayed her. On the pier, Cutter was already there, voice carrying through the dark as he briefed his men. Big movements, big certainty. Anna watched from a distance, her team quiet beside her. The sky bothered her. Not the clouds, they were thin, scattered, but the air beneath them. Heavy, pressurized. The kind that made your skin prickle if you'd learned to listen to it. She checked her watch again. The barometer had dropped another fraction. Master Chief, she murmured, not taking her eyes off the horizon. Miller followed her gaze. He didn't ask why, just nodded and moved to the comms gear. Cutter noticed then. His eyes flicked toward her, narrowing. He crossed the distance with long, confident strides. "Problem, Lieutenant?" he asked loudly, making sure others heard. Anna turned to face him, weather's shifting. He snorted, "Forecasts clear." "Forecasts are models," she replied, "not guarantees." He leaned closer. "You trying to slow us down again?" She held his gaze. "I'm trying to keep people alive." A flicker of something, uncertainty maybe, passed through his eyes. Then it hardened into something uglier. "Don't mistake caution for leadership," he said. "Some of us actually know how to move." Anna didn't respond. She turned back to her team instead, voice calm. "Double-check straps, secure everything." Cutter laughed, shaking his head. "See, always hedging." Commander Davies gave the order before the tension could thicken further. They boarded. Anna placed her hand briefly on the flare gun, a habit she'd never fully been able to explain. Superstition, maybe, or memory. The boat pushed off. When did confidence start to sound like denial? The first wave hit harder than expected. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to jolt the hull and scatter a few curses. Cutter grinned as if the ocean were proving him right. Anna didn't smile. By the second mile, the wind had picked up. By the third, the swell had lengthened into something heavier, more deliberate. The sky darkened unevenly, bruises spreading where blue had been. Anna watched Cutter's posture change. Subtly, he widened his stance, gripped the rail longer than before. She said nothing. Then the engine coughed. Once, twice. And died. The silence that followed was wrong. Too sudden, too final. Panic didn't explode, it seeped. A low-level chaos, voices overlapping, commands colliding. Cutter grabbed the radio, voice sharp now, stripped of its earlier humor. Static answered. Anna felt the boat roll broadside to the waves and knew with the same certainty she'd felt underwater, that they were seconds from real danger. She moved before anyone told her to. "Bow into the swell," she ordered, already shifting position. Cutter spun on her. "I'm handling this." "You're not," she said quietly. "And that's okay, but we need to act." He didn't hear the second part. The wave that hit next lifted the boat like a toy. Someone screamed. Anna planted her feet and felt the world tilt, felt the math of motion align in her head. This wasn't chaos. It was a system, brutal, unforgiving, but readable. She shouted instructions not over Cutter but through him, clear, actionable, immediate. For a moment, no one moved. Then Miller did. Then one Marine, then another. Cutter watched it happen, realization dawning too late. His authority wasn't being challenged. It was being replaced. What does leadership look like when fear strips everything else away? The storm took its time. 6 hours of violence and gray, of cold seeping into bone and doubt gnawing at resolve. Anna didn't feel heroic. She felt tired, focused, responsible. Every decision weighed lives. When Cutter finally lunged for the satellite phone, it wasn't defiance, it was desperation. Anna saw it for what it was. And ended it. Afterward, when the boat steadied and the sea anchor held, no one spoke for a long time. They just followed her instructions, automatically, gratefully. Respect, she thought, wasn't loud. It was quiet compliance born of trust. As dawn bled weakly through the storm clouds, Anna allowed herself one long breath. Not relief. Resolve. Because she knew what waited back on shore. And because storms, like egos, always leave wreckage behind. Why did the silence after survival feel heavier than the storm itself? Dawn arrived without warmth. A pale, exhausted light spread across the water, revealing what the night had tried to hide. Faces hollowed by fear, hands raw from gripping lines, eyes that kept drifting toward the horizon as if expecting the ocean to change its mind and come back for them. Anna stood near the bow, knees slightly bent, letting the rhythm of the stabilized boat move through her instead of against her. Her muscles ached now. The adrenaline had burned off hours ago, leaving behind that deep, honest fatigue that couldn't be ignored or argued with. She welcomed it. Fatigue meant they were alive long enough to feel it. Behind her, Cutter sat restrained, back against the pontoon. His head hung forward, rain plastering his hair to his face. The storm had taken something from him, more than authority. It had stripped him down to the man underneath the posture and noise, and that man looked lost. No one spoke to him. No one needed to. The Coast Guard cutter appeared as a darker shape against the gray, cutting through the leftover swell with practiced indifference. Rescue was never dramatic when it finally came. No cheers, no collapse, just hands reaching, lines thrown, orders exchanged in calm professional tones. Anna didn't relax until the last man stepped aboard the larger vessel. Only then did she sit. The deck was cold beneath her but solid, unmoving. She pressed her palms against it for a moment longer than necessary, grounding herself in the simple miracle of stillness. A medic knelt in front of her. "You hurt." Anna shook her head. "Check them first." The medic hesitated, then nodded. Respect passed quietly between them. As blankets were handed out and IVs started, Anna watched the Marines huddle together, shock setting in now that survival was no longer a task. Some stared at nothing. One quietly cried, shoulders shaking beneath a silver thermal wrap. She felt something tighten in her chest. Not satisfaction. Not judgment. Empathy. Fear didn't care about uniform patches or reputation. It met everyone eventually. The difference was what you did when it arrived. Why did the walk back onto base soil feel like crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed? They returned hours later, escorted, silent. Word had traveled faster than they had. It always did. The pier was crowded not with spectators but with quiet witnesses, officers, chiefs, faces carefully neutral, eyes sharp. Commander Davies waited at the edge, jaw clenched. His gaze swept over the group once, took in the state of them, then stopped on Anna. For a moment neither spoke. Then he nodded. It wasn't a thank you, it wasn't praise. It was acknowledgement. Cutter was led away separately. No one jeered, no one said a word. The absence of commentary was more brutal than any reprimand. Anna watched him go, feeling no triumph, just a distant sadness. Careers didn't usually end in a single night. They eroded, one choice at a time. This one had simply been visible. The debrief was scheduled immediately. Anna sat straight-backed in the windowless room, hands folded loosely in her lap. She changed out of her soaked uniform but hadn't bothered to dry her hair completely. It still smelled faintly of salt. She didn't mind. It reminded her why she was here. When it was her turn to speak, she did so without embellishment. She described the weather indicators, the engine failure, the loss of comms, the deployment of the sea anchor, each decision laid out cleanly as if emotion had never touched it. But inside she felt everything. The moment Cutter grabbed her arm. The second she realized the boat would capsize if they hesitated. The weight of 12 lives balancing on her voice staying calm. She didn't mention fear. She didn't need to. Others did it for her. The senior Marine corroborated her account, voice tight but steady. Cutter tried to frame it as insubordination. The words sounded thin even to himself. When the captain cut him off, the room went cold. Anna watched Cutter's face as the consequences were explained, not with satisfaction, with the quiet understanding of someone who knew how easily things could have gone differently if pride had loosened its grip just once. When it was over, Anna stood and left without ceremony. No one stopped her. Why did the mess hall feel different when nothing visible had changed? That evening, Anna returned to the same corner table. Same tray, same posture. But the room moved around her differently now. Conversations didn't stop, they softened. Laughter was quieter, not reverent, aware. People glanced at her, then looked away, not dismissal this time, consideration. She ate slowly, exhaustion dulling her appetite. Halfway through, she felt it again, the familiar loneliness that came after events like this. Not isolation exactly, distance. Competence created distance, survival widened it. Master Chief Miller joined her without asking, sat across from her, elbows on the table. Words everywhere, he said quietly. Anna nodded, it always is. They know, he added, not just what you did, how you did it. She swallowed. Knowing isn't the same as understanding. Miller studied her for a moment. You okay? The question caught her off guard. She considered lying, considered deflecting. Instead, she said, I will be. That was enough. What stays with a person after the danger passes? That night's sleep came in fragments. Images surfaced uninvited. The tilt of the boat, Cutter's eyes when he realized control was gone, the moment the sea anchor caught and the world stopped trying to kill them. Anna woke before dawn and went to the armory. Cleaning a weapon was meditation, every movement precise, familiar, the smell of solvent grounding her in routine. This was how she processed things she couldn't talk about. Miller found her there later. They're pulling his team, he said. Investigation pending. Anna didn't look up. They did their jobs when it mattered. Because you gave them something to follow. She paused, hands stilling on the bolt carrier. Fear makes people look for certainty, she said. I just gave them options. Miller smiled faintly. You always do that. Anna reassembled the rifle, the click final and sure. I try. She looked out toward the ocean through the open bay door. Calm now, deceptively so. She knew better than to trust it. Just like she knew better than to believe respect was permanent. It had to be earned again, every day, in silence, in preparation, in restraint. And she would earn it. Not because they doubted her anymore, but because she demanded it of herself. Why did victory feel quieter than defeat ever had? The base settled into a strange calm in the days that followed, as if everyone was moving through the same familiar routines but with a new, unspoken awareness. Anna felt it in the way doors seemed to open a second faster, in the way conversations paused, not to exclude her but to make room. Respect had replaced scrutiny, yet it brought its own weight. Being seen was different from being understood. She spent most mornings on the shoreline, running while the sun climbed slowly over the water. The ocean looked harmless now, almost gentle. That illusion irritated her. She pushed harder, lungs burning, muscles protesting, reminding herself that danger rarely announced itself with drama. It preferred calm disguises. During one run, a group of junior operators slowed as she passed. One of them offered a nod, hesitant but sincere. Anna returned it without breaking stride. Small gestures mattered. They were the bricks that rebuilt trust after it fractured. By midweek, the Marine platoon's area of the base stood mostly empty. Their gear had been packed, their laughter gone. The absence felt loud. Anna didn't celebrate it. Consequences weren't victories, they were corrections. Still, the whispers followed her. She dropped him in seconds. Didn't even raise her voice. He tried to take over, wrong move. Each retelling sharpened the edges, turning moments into myths. Anna disliked that. Myths made people careless. They mistook outcomes for inevitability and forgot how close things had come to ending differently. She kept her head down, focusing on preparation for the next assignment. Paperwork, maintenance, briefings, the unglamorous spine of real operations. It was during one of those briefings that Commander Davies called her name. "Lieutenant Sharma, stay after." The room emptied quickly. No one lingered. Anna remained standing, hands clasped behind her back, eyes forward. Davies studied her for a long moment before speaking. "You understand why I let it proceed?" She did, and that was the problem. "Yes, sir," she said. "I ignored your assessment," he continued. "I won't do that again." The admission hung between them, rare, heavy. Anna felt a flicker of something, validation perhaps, but she kept her face neutral. "We all work with the information we have, sir." Davies nodded slowly. "From now on, your assessments carry weight. Make sure they deserve it." "I will." It wasn't praise, it was responsibility. She accepted it without hesitation. Why did recognition feel more dangerous than ridicule? That evening, Anna received an invitation she hadn't expected. A quiet drink at the officers' club. Informal, no ceremony. She almost declined. Instead, she went. The room was subdued, low light reflecting off polished wood. Conversations were muted, respectful. When she entered, a few heads turned. A few smiles followed. Genuine, she thought, but curiosity lingered behind them. A pilot she recognized from earlier exercises raised his glass. "Heard you read the ocean better than the charts." Anna smiled faintly. "Charts don't breathe." Laughter rippled softly. She took a seat at the bar, ordered water. Alcohol dulled edges she preferred sharp. Someone asked about the storm. Someone else asked about the shoot house. The questions were careful now, framed as learning rather than challenge. Still, she felt exposed. Because admiration, unlike contempt, invited expectations. A junior lieutenant approached hesitantly. "Ma'am, how do you stay calm when everything's falling apart?" Anna considered the question, longer than the asker expected. "I don't," she said finally. "I just don't let it drive." The lieutenant nodded, absorbing that, thanked her, walked away. Anna finished her water and left early. Outside, the air was cool, quiet. She breathed deeply, letting the night reset her. When does a reputation stop being yours? The message arrived the next morning, a transfer request, not a demotion, not a promotion, a reassignment to a joint task force operating far from the base, classified, immediate. Anna read it twice. This was how it happened, not with medals or speeches, with orders that recognized value by demanding more. She packed without ceremony, same methodical precision, same routines. Miller stopped by as she closed her bag. "They want you because you don't panic," he said. "They want me because I'm useful," Anna replied. Miller smiled. Same thing in this line of work. At the transport hangar, a few operators she barely knew offered quiet farewells. One of the Marines, the corporal who had first looked to her on the boat, stood awkwardly near the edge. "Ma'am," he said, "I just thank you for not giving up on us." Anna met his eyes. "You didn't give up on yourselves, remember that." He nodded, jaw tight. As she boarded the aircraft, Anna looked back once at the base, at the pier, at the ocean beyond. She felt no triumph, only readiness. What remains after the noise fades? The aircraft lifted smoothly, banking toward open sky. Anna closed her eyes, letting the vibration steady her thoughts. She knew the stories would continue, that people would simplify them, turn restraint into legend, turn discipline into spectacle. She couldn't control that. What she could control was what came next. She had learned long ago that strength wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. It didn't mock or boast or dominate. It observed, it prepared, it acted when required. And when the moment passed, it returned to silence. Anna rested her head against the seat, the hum of engines filling the space where doubt used to live. Whatever waited ahead would test her again. Of that, she had no illusions. But she would meet it the same way she always had. Quietly, completely, without apology. Why did the quiet before a new mission feel heavier than the chaos she'd left behind? The aircraft droned steadily, hours blending together until time lost its shape. Anna sat with her eyes open, not watching anything in particular, letting the hum settle into her bones. This was the in-between space she knew well, the pause after one life ended and before the next demanded her full attention. It was where doubt tried to speak the loudest. She didn't give it room. When the plane finally descended, the landscape below was harsh and colorless, a stretch of land that looked as though it had learned how to endure by becoming empty. Heat shimmered even from the air. Anna adjusted her posture, already shifting from transit to readiness. The task force compound was small, temporary, purpose-built. No banners, no speeches, just work waiting to be done. The briefing room smelled faintly of dust and old coffee. Faces turned toward her as she entered, not with hostility, with expectation, some curious, some cautious, a few openly relieved. That unsettled her more than mockery ever had. The mission was simple on paper. Extraction of an asset embedded too long, too deep. The complications were written between the lines, fractured intelligence, local tensions, whether that shifted without warning. The kind of operation where mistakes didn't announce themselves until it was too late. As the briefing ended, the task force commander, a woman older than Anna, voice calm, eyes sharp, met her gaze. "You've been recommended highly," she said. "Not a compliment, a statement." Anna nodded once. "I'll earn it again." That earned a small, knowing smile. Why did leadership feel lonelier the moment it was unquestioned? The team assembled that evening. Different branches, different backgrounds, different scars. Anna listened more than she spoke, cataloging rhythms, habits, silences. Trust wasn't built by declaring it. It formed when people realized they were being seen. One operator, broad-shouldered and quiet, avoided her eyes. Another watched her too closely. The medic asked practical questions. Good signs. Fear hid in curiosity and avoidance alike. Later, as they prepped gear under the fatting light, the quiet one finally spoke. "Storm stories real?" he asked, not looking up. Anna didn't bristle. "Yes." He hesitated. "You really took command from a Marine staff sergeant." "I didn't take it," she replied. He let go. That seemed to settle something. He nodded, satisfied. Word had traveled faster than she had. She couldn't undo that. All she could do was be consistent enough to make the truth boring. That night sleep didn't come easily. The compound was too quiet, the kind of silence that amplified memory. Anna lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment Cutter's grip tightened on her arm, the decision that followed, the lack of hesitation. She wondered, not for the first time, what line separated restraint from violence and how thin it really was. What happens when confidence cracks from the inside? The mission began before dawn. They moved through terrain that offered no forgiveness. Heat rose early, dust clung to skin and gear. Every step was deliberate, every sound weighed. Anna took point when required, fell back when it made more sense. Leadership wasn't a position, it was a constant adjustment. Halfway to the extraction site, the first complication arrived. Not enemy contact, worse. Indecision. Conflicting intel had left a gap in their approach window. The asset might already be moving, or compromised, or neither. The team paused in a shallow ravine, tension building with the sun. One of the operators, the one who'd watched her too closely, spoke sharply. "We're burning daylight, we push." Another countered, "Or we walk into an ambush." Voices rose, not shouting, but strain crept in. Anna let it happen for a moment. Then she spoke. "We move," she said, "but we adjust, slower, eyes wider, no shortcuts." There was no challenge, no argument. That startled her, because trust, once given, could be heavier than doubt. Why did failure feel closer when no one questioned her? The extraction point came into view just as the wind shifted. Dust thickened. Visibility dropped. A figure moved where it shouldn't have. Anna's pulse spiked, not with fear but with awareness. Something was wrong. She raised a fist. The team froze. Seconds stretched. The figure resolved into a child, too thin, too alert, watching them with learned caution. The medic inhaled sharply. Anna lowered her weapon slowly, made herself smaller, less threatening. The child hesitated, then vanished into the dust. The moment passed, but it left a mark. They reached the safe house to find it empty. Signs of a rushed departure, still warm, too late. A failure. No one said it aloud. Anna felt the weight settle on her shoulders anyway. What does responsibility sound like when no one is blaming you? They regrouped miles away, silence thick. The commander's voice crackled over comms, asking for status. Anna reported calmly, "Facts only." After, she sat alone for a moment, helmet beside her, dust coating her gloves. The team pretended not to watch her. This was the part no one talked about. When preparation met unpredictability and came up short. She felt the familiar urge to replay every decision, every second, but she didn't indulge it. Self-flagellation didn't save lives. Adjustment did. "We'll find another window," she said, standing. "We adapt." The team moved, no hesitation. That was when Anna understood something that unsettled her more than any insult Cutter had thrown. They believed in her now. Not because she was flawless, but because she didn't pretend to be. Why did redemption feel like a road that never ended? Back at the compound, plans shifted. New intel arrived. A second chance, thinner and riskier. Anna stood over the map, jaw tight. This was where leadership cut deepest, choosing whether to ask people to follow you again after failure. She met their eyes one by one. "This isn't about proving anything," she said quietly. "If anyone wants out, say it now." No one spoke. She nodded, "Then we move at dusk." As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the compound, Anna checked her gear one last time. Same rituals, same calm. She felt tired, but not broken. Somewhere along the way, she'd learned that redemption wasn't a single act. It was a pattern, repeated, unseen, often uncelebrated. And she was still walking it, step by deliberate step, into whatever waited next. Why did the final choice feel less like courage and more like honesty? Dusk blurred the edges of the world. Shadows stretched long and uncertain, turning familiar shapes into questions. Anna moved among her team in silence, checking straps, meeting eyes, exchanging nothing more than nods. There was no speech this time, no rallying words. Everyone already knew what was being asked of them. Trust wasn't loud at the end. It was quiet acceptance. They moved out as the light died, following a route that bent away from expectation. Anna chose it deliberately. Predictability was comfort. Comfort got people killed. The air cooled just enough to sharpen focus, and the wind shifted again, carrying sounds farther than it should have. She adjusted the pace without comment. The team adjusted with her. That was when she knew this would work. Not because the plan was perfect, but because the people executing it were listening. The second approach took longer. It always did when you respected uncertainty. They reached the outer perimeter just as the first stars appeared, faint and indifferent above them. Anna paused, crouched low, studying the pattern of light and shadow ahead. The safe house sat quiet, but quiet didn't mean empty. It meant waiting. Her pulse slowed. This moment, this suspended breath before action, was where fear tried to make itself useful. She let it sharpen her senses instead of her doubts. They entered without force. A door eased open, a room cleared, then another, every step measured, every sound catalogued. On the third room, Anna felt it before she saw it. Presence, human, close. She raised her hand. A figure shifted in the darkness, weapon half raised. The standoff lasted less than a second. Anna stepped into the angle, controlled, precise. The weapon clattered to the floor. The figure froze. "Don't," Anna said softly. Not a threat, a promise. The asset emerged from the back room moments later, older than expected, thinner, eyes haunted by weeks of living wrong. Relief washed over the team in quiet waves. No one celebrated. Celebration was for after. Extraction unfolded without drama. That more than anything told Anna they'd done it right. No alarms, no chasing headlights, just movement back into the night. Only once they were clear did she allow herself a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Why did success feel incomplete without reflection? Back at the compound, the asset was secured, debriefs began, and the machinery of closure spun into motion. Anna stood slightly apart, helmet under her arm, dust still clinging to her sleeves. She listened as the commander spoke, words efficient and approving. "Well done," the commander said finally, meeting Anna's gaze. "You adjusted, that made the difference." Anna nodded. "They did," she replied, inclining her head toward the team. The commander watched her for a moment longer. "You don't take credit easily." Anna considered that. "Credit is loud," she said. "Outcomes are quieter." Later, alone for the first time in days, Anna sat on the edge of her bunk and removed her boots. Her hands trembled slightly now that the tension had released. She let them. Control didn't mean denial. She thought of Cutter, of the mess hall laughter, of the moment on the boat when control fractured and competence took its place. She thought of the child in the dust, the empty safe house, the second chance earned not by insistence but by restraint. Patterns emerged when she let them. Pride had rushed. Fear had frozen. Discipline had adapted. It wasn't a lesson she'd learned once. It was one she kept relearning, in different uniforms, different places, under different skis. When did redemption stop looking like vindication? The days that followed were routine again. Paperwork, maintenance, preparation for whatever came next. The team moved with an ease that hadn't been there before. Trust had settled into something durable. One evening, the quiet operator approached her as she cleaned her gear. "Ma'am," he said, hesitant, "back there when it almost went wrong the first time. I thought you'd push harder, force it." Anna didn't look up. "Why?" "Because that's what most leaders do," he said. "They double down." She paused, considering her answer. Sometimes doubling down just digs the hole deeper. He nodded slowly. "I'll remember that." She watched him leave, a small, thoughtful smile touching her mouth. Influence didn't always look like authority. Sometimes it looked like a sentence that followed someone long after you'd gone. What remains when the story ends but the work does? Orders came the next morning. Another move, another assignment, no ceremony, no time to linger. As Anna packed, she felt a familiar mix of fatigue and clarity, the kind that came only after things had gone wrong and then right for the right reasons. She didn't feel redeemed. She felt aligned. At the transport, the commander shook her hand. "Wherever you go next," she said, "they'll be lucky." Anna met her eyes. "Luck's unreliable." The commander smiled. "So are people until they are." The aircraft lifted, carrying Anna away from another place that would remember her in fragments and stories. She watched the ground recede, feeling neither loss nor triumph. Just continuity. Why does dignity never announce itself? Hours later, with the hum of engines steady and unchanging, Anna closed her eyes. The memories didn't crowd her now. They arranged themselves neatly, filed where they belonged. She knew there would be other mess halls, other doubts, other storms, human and otherwise. She would be underestimated again, challenged again, tested in quieter, more dangerous ways. And she would respond the same way she always had. Not with anger, not with spectacle, but with preparation, restraint, and action when action mattered. Strength, she had learned, wasn't dominance. Leadership wasn't volume. Redemption wasn't a moment. It was a discipline. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.